Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Costa, and this is my SuperMarket Safari. This is for my online asynchronous course at CSULB Frankenfood, Fact or Science Fiction. Let's get started. Okay, so what is a Frankenfood? Before I started this class, I wasn't even sure myself what a Frankenfood was. It's not something I ever heard about. Of course, I've heard about genetically modified foods, but never really a Frankenfood. But it's basically an informal, non-scientific term to describe food that is unnaturally engineered. It often comes up in debates about genetically modified organisms like GMOs, even foods that DNA has been altered in a lab to make it longer lasting and higher yielding, especially when something is highly processed, it has long ingredient lists, preservatives, flavor enhancers, artificial colorings, exactly what we're going to be talking about right now with the food I chose for my supermarket safari. Okay, so the food I selected for my supermarket safari was Hosted Frosted Donuts. I love these things, even though I know after this little project they are not good for me. Okay, so what is a Frankenfood? Before I started this class, I wasn't even sure myself what a Frankenfood was. It's not something I ever heard about. Of course, I've heard about genetically modified foods, but never really a Frankenfood. But it's basically an informal, non-scientific term to describe food that is unnaturally engineered. It often comes up in debates about genetically modified organisms like GMOs, even foods that DNA has been altered in a lab to make it longer lasting and higher yielding, especially when something is highly processed, it has long ingredient lists, preservatives, flavor enhancers, artificial colorings, exactly what we're going to be talking about right now with the food I chose for my supermarket safari. So basically, there are a lot of ingredients in this food, in these Frosted Hostess chocolate donuts, but basically there's 33 total. There's more than 33. There's about 40, but that's if you include the enriched wheat flour. But right now, we're only going to focus on the top 3 that are the worst for you. So we have hydrogenated palm kernel oil, which is a source of trans fats, and it may say 0 trans fats on the packaging, but even trace amounts can lead to inflammation and heart disease. And then we have palm oil and soybean oil. Those can lead to inflammation and obesity, and they're highly refined. They're not inherently toxic, but they're just not good in excess. So this is something you're eating every day. You might want to put the package down and have it be a once a month treat. And then we have high sugar sources. So there's a lot of sugar in these donuts. So the excess sugar is linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and even tooth decay. Okay, so for my first premise, which is basically a statement that is presumed to be true based on an argument or a fact. So my argument is how foods with long lists of artificial ingredients and preservatives are highly processed and unnatural. So this is true based on the fact of all the ingredients we just went over. There's 33 ingredients in this single donut, and it's on an aisle in the grocery store that is known to have unhealthy foods. It's not exactly found in the produce section. It's found in the chip and snack aisle, which is an aisle that is usually known to have unhealthy foods. Okay, so for my premise number 2, Hosted Frosted Donuts contain many artificial additives, preservatives, and processed sugars. There's about an additional 17 grams of sugar per just regular sugar in these donuts. That is a lot of sugar and not something someone needs in one sitting, especially when it's processed sugar and not a naturally occurring sugar. Okay, so based on a 2019 study, it was found that hydrogenated palm kernel oil has high saturated fatty acid content and it is hazardous to customers' health. High cholesterol levels can cause coronary lesions and risking the risk of cardiovascular disease, and significantly increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, and early death. So this little sweet treat of a donut is not so sweet after all. Okay, so based on another 2024 research study, it was found that ultra processed food and the consumption of such has a negative impact on human health by adversely affecting body weight, insulin resistance, so it affects the pancreas, and has systemic inflammation, blood pressure, gut microbiome. It all gets messed up. So there's recent studies that suggest that a higher consumption of ultra-processed foods like UPFs have long-term effects on cardiometabolic health, increasing the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So basically, the main issues with eating these donuts day in and day out, or even multiple times a week, you're putting yourself at risk for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So now we have finally reached the conclusion. So Hostess frosted donuts, they may taste really good, but they're not exactly good for you. They aren't exactly a Frankenfood because they're engineered, ultra processed, and packed with additives. They're best understood as the occasional indulgence, not as a food that actually supports health and something you should eat every day. Like a true donut at home is made with a few ingredients, while these frosted Hostess donuts have about 30 plus ingredients, many created in labs for texture control, shelf stability, and have a hyper sweet flavor. They're more about profit than actual nourishment. They have high calories but low fiber, not a lot of vitamins or minerals. The energy you get from eating them is like a quick little fix, more so like an empty calorie because it has refined sugar and fat. So something all around you just avoid in the grocery store and avoid it because Victor Frankenstein might want to eat these too, but we know how he is when he makes a creation. Thank you.